When I heard exactly 2 weeks ago that Rue McClanahan, all of 76 rambunctious years old, had died here in this very city, I lost gay brain cells. True, in the cosmic scheme of things, whatever that means, I hew more closely to the Rose Nyland, Betty White model, all lack of common sense and ensuing dementia on full display. So I must say that I always admired Blanche Devereaux for something that I have never quite possessed, which is a facility with flirtation that the wife of Bath would have envied. Soon after McClanahan's death, myriad YouTube videos trotted themselves onto the cyber boards, presenting example after example of the comedian's radiant yet perfectly calibrated wit. Unlike the recent big-screen yet small-impact comedy of Samantha in the Sex and the City sequel, which I endearingly like to call Fuck the Casbah, the heart of the Blanche Devereaux montage is its unerring dedication to burlesque, brains, and earnestness at once. In fact, one particularly saucy clip showed a young McClanahan shaking what her grandma gave her in an old burlesque routine. Her death then was the type of occasion for which the phrase, "they just don't make them like that anymore," was invented. Many memories sprang forth during that sad day, but none more so than the time that my best friend Chris and I tried to meet McClanahan. Well, perhaps meet is not the right word. On a tip, we were made to understand that this grand doyenne of the TV and stage lived not in some pied-à-terre on the Upper East Side or Sutton Place, or in some Tony West Village townhouse, but rather in one of the penthouse suites at Windsor Court. In Murray Hill. Hadn't I, in fact, seen some random Entertainment Tonight segment that showed McClanahan purr-inducing in a silk dressing gown and turban, in an apartment specifically located on the east side of town? Indeed I had. And so, with our usual mixture of cluelessness and determination, a mixture usually confined to drunk hoes, we devised a plan. Since I of the dun skin could not pass as a relative, the character's name was Blanche, after all, our plan was to fashion Chris into the grandson of McClanahan and decide that he would ask the man at the front desk if his grandma Rue had left a package for him. Naturally, the man would say there was no package, but that Ms. McClanahan did live in the building, and oh, wouldn't he love to go right on up and sit with her for some iced tea and pound cake? But this, we thought, would be too transparent a plan, as if people in the world simply expect young gays to be on a constant McClanahan prowl. So we decided that Chris's imaginary grandmother was BFF with Rue, and that she was sending Rue a care package, care of the building. But again, McClanahan prowl. So we decided that Chris's imaginary grandmother was not just friends with Rue, but senile. We would tell the doorman that Chris wanted to make sure she had addressed the package correctly, so as to make sure that the recipient in question did indeed reside in the given building. This, I now realize, is about as terrifying a scenario as that clown-masked bank robbery scene that opens The Dark Knight. I waited outside Windsor Court while Chris revolved the door into the lobby. The stout, sober-looking doorman greeted him tersely, though to me, silently, barricaded as I was by plate glass and a lot of shrubbery. I saw Chris give some long explanation, miming various ailments to demonstrate just how infirm and senile his made-up grandmother was. I saw him form the word at the doorman's puzzled expression. The doorman pulled out some large binder that seemed to contain all 5 million residents of the building, but to no avail. He could not find our golden girl. Only now did our complete folly hit us. You don't find gold in some random Murray Hill compound, just South Tanner. In truth, McClanahan had lived in a townhouse on the east side of town, many blocks north of Windsor Court. A few years later, Grandma Rue released her memoir, My First 5 Husbands and the One That Got Away. There hasn't been so awesome a book title since From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Franklin. The memoir was one of the greatest literary creations of all time, Avi. What was more impressive than its very robust sales in hardcover was its equally solid performance as a paperback a year later. For that publication, her publisher and my former employer threw her a fabulous party upstairs at the paragon of masculinity and Marlboro Man chic, the Stonewall Inn. Chris had moved to Philly by then, but my friend Jessica was in town, so I dragged her to the event. What we encountered there was astounding. No, not that. There were hordes of gay men, that's hordes, crowded into the room to see Rue. Hundreds of them lying shoulder to shoulder, or more accurately, genitals to rear, all crowed to get a glimpse of Blanche Devereaux. I was at a book party for a Golden Girl at the Stonewall with a friend named Jessica. The only thing gayer would be me Frenching Oscar Wilde's corpse. All that was missing were some towels, some police batons, and a civil rights movement. Rue appeared on stage, clearly overwhelmed by the droves that had turned up to fetch her. She was dressed in another loose-fitting caftan, and she was, even though hindered somewhat in her movement, every bit the brassy dame she had been with Dorothy, Rose, and Sophia all those years before. It was one of those moments when you can actually see with your own eyes how wit and class are indelible, unable to be lessened by the passing of time. We all had our Rue memories that day, and as I watched two twinks make out and spill their vodka sodas all over their tight t-shirts, I felt truly blessed not only to be a golden girl amidst golden girls, but a true gay amidst gays. That night when I got home, I called up Chris and eked out a sniffly little tune. It's the same tune we sang to each other 2 weeks ago. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. Ba-doom, boom. And if you threw a party, invited every gay you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being R.I.P. Rue.
On March 7, 2014, at age 21, Michael Stearns is a little bit depressed, until he gets word that day that he'll be published in Opium magazine's next print edition. He feels happy, a sense of purpose. Once published, the story is read by 2,247 people, including a top literary agent. The story becomes a launching point for a novel that snares him a 2-book deal. His debut novel is considered a classic, and he's a Pulitzer Prize finalist. 5 years later, he marries this librarian, who he adores, and who adores him. 2 years after that, he saves this baby from drowning. 7 years later, his 4th book wins the National Book Award. In his late-life memoir, Michael Stearns writes that at a time when he was considering giving up writing altogether, being published in Opium changed his life. He passes away at age 81, surrounded by children, grandchildren, his adoring wife. Or, at age 21, Michael Stearns gives up on writing and becomes a crack addict. Say no to crack. Say yes to opium. Donate now to support the future's most innovative and important writing.